Don't look like that white boy summer going the way Chet Hanks expected.
Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, ISIS: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April.
TMZ played some video of Chet Hanks, the son of Tom Hanks, in a violent altercation with his black ex-girlfriend, Kiana Parker. Now, in this incident, which took place at Chet Hanks' home in Sugarland, Texas, your Kiana Parker is alleged to have swung at Chet Hanks with a pot in the video and knocked the smartphone out of his hands he was recording her with, and then soon reappeared in the frame with blood on his face, alleging that he charged at him with a knife. Now, your Chet Hanks is not the only one alleging violence as related to their relationship. Kiana Parker has gotten a restraining order against Chet Hanks, alleging that he roughed her up on multiple occasions between October 2020 and January 2021. Now, your Chet Hanks alleges that he's had issues with this Kiana Parker over the course of the relationship, and your Kiana Parker is alleging that he has attacked her and threatened her, and he made the statement saying that during these domestic violence incidents, as Kiana Parker alleges, that she was just a ghetto black bee and he was Chet Hanks. And a critical examination of the alleged domestic violence incident between your Chet Hanks and his girlfriend Kiana Parker, it's another case of swirling gone wrong. And when I take a further critical examination of your Chet Hanks, he's one of these textbook beta males like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And your Chet Hanks is one of these beta male culture vultures who wants to try to steal from black culture because he has an inferiority complex as related to his whiteness. And because he has an inferiority complex as related to his white male identity, he wants to go out here and pursue relationships with black women because he feels powerless in the presence of white women. And because he feels powerless in the presence of white women, he goes out here and seeks out these ghetto hood rats to have relationships with. And the reason why he does that is twofold. One, because he sees black women as a sexual fetish, and two, because he believes the only women he can be able to have in a submissive role is that of a black woman who fits the stereotypes he is familiar with. So your Chet Hanks is one of these deeply dysfunctional white males, and because of his numerous inferiority issues, he goes out here looking to try to pretend to be black and be part of black culture, and he also goes out here looking for black women to sate his sexual fetishes and his sexual fantasies. And this white male is sort of a trap for many of these swirlers out here who deify and worship white men. They go into a relationship with this deeply dysfunctional white male, Chet Hanks, thinking they have gotten a prize in what they believe to be some sort of high-value white man that they can brag and boast about to their black friends. But as they start to have a relationship with this Chet Hanks, they soon find that their knight in shining armor is quite tarnished, and their prince is nothing more than a toad. Because many of the black women who get involved with your Chet Hanks, they really don't have many standards as related to a relationship with this guy. Looks don't matter, character doesn't matter, values don't matter because he's white, and that white skin covers a multitude of sins and imperfections in the beginning of the relationship. Now, your David Carroll has gone in depth on this whole subject in many of his rabbit hole and his public videos, and he's shown the paradigm as related to many of these swirling relationships between white men like Chet Hanks and your black women like this Kiana Parker. And what happens is you have a honeymoon phase with these kind of guys early on as the black woman deifies and worships this white man, and they think that everything is a paradise as they're going to move in with this white man. But what eventually happens is as these women start to settle into their home with this white man, what happens is they start to get comfortable with this white man, and they start showing themselves to this white man. Now, to be fair about this whole situation, while your black women are known to have these attitudes and big mouths, this Chet Hanks himself is a bit of a simp from what I have read on TMZ, because he's sitting there talking about how this black woman stole from him and ran up his credit cards and wound up stealing some of his property. And that can only happen if you have a simp talking about his money, flashing his cash, and showing off his credit cards and saying things like, okay, boo, you can buy whatever you want. And what these guys will do again is show off their money to impress these females out here, and then once they show their money off, they're thinking that they're impressing the female, but all they're doing is dangling shark bait in front of female predators so they can have something to take advantage of. So a lot of guys like these Chet Hanks, these culture vulture, wannabe Pookie type guys, they want to go out here flashing the cash because they think it'll get them some attention from some black females. But what happens with these guys is these females wind up turning the tables on them, and they wind up taking them for all they're worth. And the reason why they take them for all that they're worth is because these beta males have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and they have no real confidence in themselves. So they try to go out here trying to get the attention of a woman with this money, but then they wind up getting fleeced for all their money, and they wind up in a toxic situation. And this situation probably got real toxic because this beta male, your Chet Hanks, has a major inferiority complex, and because he has a major inferiority complex, he was feeling extremely insecure about himself and his relationship. And even though he chose these low-level black women to get involved with, what happened was the relationship between him and these low-level black women always deteriorated because he was feeling insecure about himself. And this probably shows because your Chet Hanks, this isn't the first black woman he's gotten involved with. He has a baby mama who has a child from a previous relationship, and he now is having problems with this woman. So it's clearly showing me that there's a pattern as related to his behavior and a pattern as related to the issues he is having with black women. Because while these swirlers wound up in a situation where they took an L, this is the kind of guy who winds up being targeted because he just makes himself out there to be taken advantage of because he has numerous issues. And many of the swirlers out here would say, based on his income, your Chet Hanks is a catch because your Chet Hanks is one of these high-value men. He's one of these actors who is working. He has a mansion. He makes plenty of money. He's what's considered a catch on paper for many of these black women who really don't have much high standards outside of his white skin, and they don't really look at this man's character and many of his numerous character issues. So because he's got that white skin that covers that multitude of sins and imperfections, they're not looking at this man's character, and they're not looking at the fact that this man possibly may have been an abuser, or possibly might have been a serial abuser. But that really, again, does not matter to the many of these swirlers out here, because all they want is this white man. But when you look at this whole situation, it's yet another situation where we see another case of swirling gone wrong, and it's a case of swirling gone wrong because the black woman chose this white man basically because of the color of his skin. And after she figured out that the content of his character was not that great, that's when the relationship started to deteriorate. And that's when your Chet Hanks was talking, not only, I believe, calling her a black bee, as your Kiana Parker alleges, but I believe she was probably called the N-word as well, because as this relationship continued to deteriorate, I believe that this man possibly could have called her the N-word a couple of times, because oftentimes when these swirling relationships start to go sour, that's when your white males will really start to show the true content of their character. And when it comes down to this Chet Hanks, I don't really think his character is as sterling as people try to present, because in the reports they try to make it look like, oh, the black woman busted this white man open, but this white man would not be in that situation if he wasn't out here having these inferiority complexes as related to his whiteness and looking to steal from black culture and try to pose like a black man, because he said he was going to have a white boy summer. But it seems like the black girl magic put a hex on him in January, so I'm not thinking he's going to have that white boy summer, because now most of people out here know that he's one of these white males who possibly has a black female fetish. And now that they know about his black female fetish, I'm not thinking he's going to have much luck with the ladies, outside of many of these swirlers out here who have extremely low standards and just will get with any white guy, that he will probably thinking he's going to have that summer where he's going to pick up another black chick. But as I see it, this is a guy most black women who are swirling need to avoid, because if you want to take an easy L, you will wind up with a guy like Chet Hanks. But that doesn't matter to many of the swirlers out here, because they're deifying and worshiping white men, looking at the color of their skin and not the content of their character. But when I look at the character of your Chet Hanks, your supposed high-value white male who comes from a prominent family of an Academy Award-winning actor, it doesn't look like his character is that sterling, because he's sitting up here, going out here chasing after these low-level black women because he's got low self-esteem, low self-worth, and no confidence. And he thinks that if he goes to the bottom of the black community looking for these stereotype black women, he'll be able to have power in the relationship. And that really shows how little self-esteem this beta white male has, because he's not looking for a relationship where he's looking for an equal partner. No, he's looking for a woman to have power over. And what happens is he winds up getting frustrated when he can't have that power in the relationship, when that black woman starts to show her attitude, the neck rolling, the eye snapping, and that's when he starts to get violent, because he feels powerless in those situations. And that's one of the things that makes him a ticking time bomb, like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it looks like to me that your Chet Hanks, has some deeply serious issues, but many of these black women, they will overlook many of those issues because they want to go out here and have themselves a summer, white boy summer, with this white man. But that white boy summer could lead to some tragedy, because your black girl magic really does not work too well with white supremacy. And in this case, when it comes down to your Chet Hanks, it's looking like another tragic case of swirling gone wrong. Now, if you want to see me make more classic videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about deeply troubled beta males, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. And comment, rate, and subscribe. Much. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com.